Good evening, guys. Welcome back. We will continue with our Docker session. So today is a Docker Day-6 session, and today the date is 21st of your December 2025, and the timing is evening 5 p.m. IST. Okay, guys. So so let us try to just quickly recap what we did on day 5. Day 5, we understood about something about high level. We learned about the architecture, right? And also we discussed on stateless and stateful and monolithical versus microkernel. I will have one more session where I will discuss more on microservices. What are the protocols which are used for communicate between one service to other service? So I will have a discussion on that also in some time. Okay, monolithic, not much to be discussed. Okay, but only microservice I'll be discussing more. Okay, then we installed it. We installed the Docker in our Ubuntu machine, and also we try to understand like how we will be able to host any kind of a website inside the container, right? So that is what these are the steps which we had followed it. And finally, there are two options are there to create an image. One is to create an image manually, which we did it, and other is a creating a container interactive mode. Necessary run the command. This is what we had did it actually. So basically, the two ways are the one is creating a container manually deploying it, and the second is a writing a Docker file, which is actually recommended. This is the recommended one. Okay, we don't usually follow the first way of doing it, right? This is not it is not a proper approach to do it. So this is what it is. We will be soon starting the Docker file also, guys, because maybe in Tuesday session, from Tuesday onwards, we will have we will learn how to write a Docker file, or else let's see if I am able to start it tomorrow only. Okay, so we have to learn about how to write a Docker file, and most of our questions revolves under this itself, actually. And for sure, all the interviewer will ask you to share your screen, and they will give you a scenario to write a Docker file, or else they will tell you only write a Docker file. So that while writing a Docker file, they'll start asking you some questions when you start writing, or once you complete writing a Docker file, he will try to ask you some question, and he will tell you how do you write it, what are the other options available, like that. And also, like he will also ask you how to optimize your Docker image, and just how do you build the image, and all such questions would be asked while writing a Docker file. So we will be discussing thoroughly about all those things actually. So before writing a Docker file, we'll first try to learn about the image, what exactly is image is all about. Okay, what image contains, those things and all we'll be discussing in our next session, that is in tomorrow's session. Okay, so now good. So what would be today's agenda, guys? Today in the Day-6, we would be continuing with few more things about the architecture. I will not take that much time, but I will try to finish it off understanding the architecture in one more next level deeper way, so that we will understand what exactly the component of your Docker daemon. Right now, we know that, guys, all these days, what we are learning that basically we were learning something like this. So let me choose some clip arts. So we know that we have the server. So in this server, basically what we do, basically we try to install the Docker, right? Docker package, when you install it, basically. So when you install a Docker, and when you start the Docker daemon service, so you need to start it. By default, it starts actually. Suppose if in case if it is not started, so we usually run a command systemctl, ctl status, and then specify docker.service. This is what we check it usually in the command line to check whether Docker is running or not. If it is in case not running, then you have to just say systemctl start and then say docker.service. And also along with that, we also run one more command, the systemctl what do you call enable docker.service. So these are the basically some commands you will run in the machine to check whether the Docker daemon is running or not. So we call this as a Docker daemon or Docker server or as Docker engine. It could be called with any name actually. Am I clear, sir? Now the thing is that along with this Docker daemon, we call the daemon, we know that we also get something known as a Docker terminal or Docker client, right? And this client is the one who actually interacts. Whenever you're executing any command in a command line, this client will send a request to your Docker daemon or Docker engine, and then like further Docker daemon will serve the service for this Docker client. Now, this was basically a first version of the Docker which was released actually in the year 2013, right, when Solomon Hykes and his team people, right, when they released the Docker, basically this was the first version which was there in the which was working as it. So this was there was some flaw was there in this first version of the Docker release. The flaw was that suppose in case we already understood that this Docker, whatever the Docker daemon or Docker server which is running in the system, right? It is tightly bonded with your Linux operating system. It is tightly bound with the Linux OS actually. So it means that if there is any kind of an upgrade happen into the Linux machine or onto the OS or onto any other stuff, like for example you are updating your OS with some patch, or if you are updating a network patching. So when you try to do any kind of a changes into the operating system, basically what happened, this daemon also has to be, this daemon or the server also need to be changed according to the updates what happened on the Linux operating system. So when any kind of a update is happening onto the Linux, onto the Docker engine or onto the Docker daemon, whatever the containers which are already running, that will get stopped actually, because there is a daemon update is going on. So because of this reason, what happened, right, all this Docker container which was running on top of this machine or on top of this Docker system, it will all this container will get stopped for some time. Once you upgrade it, basically what happened, once you update your Docker daemon, then you can start your Docker container, and then it gets starts and the container starts working, right? So but this is fine if you are doing everything in our test environment or into your dev environment. That is fine, totally fine, because we can see the downtime or we are okay with the downtime. But you cannot do the same thing in the production environment, right? Production environment, you have to always you have to make your container always alive always, and like it should be always be up and running. So you should not see any kind of a downtime for any kind of a container which is running it, right? When it comes to production environment, some people have a doubt that, Rajesh, do we really use a Docker in production environment? Yes sir, we use it. Why not, right? Because a lot of people have that some kind of a confusion that do we really use it or not. That's the first question. Yes, we use it actually, definitely is used, no doubt. But now what happened, that along with the Docker, like we have some kind of an orchestration system known as a Kubernetes. So along with the Kubernetes cluster, what happened, by default Docker daemon or Docker OCI will be running inside the worker node. And obviously, whenever you're creating a pod, what the terminology we use now, something like a pod in case of Kubernetes, basically pod is something like, it is nothing but your Docker is getting created actually. I mean, the Docker is getting called and Docker is going to create that container, and within a pod, inside a pod, a container will be running. That container will be it will be a Docker container only. Right, that is one case. Or still there are many companies are there who have deployed or who are running their application under the ECS cluster. Elastic Container Service. That is a service which provided by Amazon AWS. Many companies are there who have hosted their application, everything onto the ECS itself. Right. So you could also see, yes, some company, very old companies are there who are running their application, everything under the Docker Swarm cluster. Still some companies are using Docker Swarm cluster. It's not like that all the companies have moved to the Kubernetes. No, it's not like that. Some companies are old companies which are still running their application under Docker Swarm. So you could see that directly or indirectly, you will be using the container technology, and Docker is one of the famous container technology which is used across most of the organization. So it doesn't mean that Docker doesn't work in production environment. No, not like that. It is used in a production environment also. Whatever the challenges you face in the dev or test environment, same challenges you have to face in the production also, because even production also requires kind of an upgrade onto any kind of a technology or the tool what you used actually, right? Suppose if you are using Kubernetes cluster in a production environment, tomorrow if you want to do upgrade of the Kubernetes cluster, right? So you need to follow the same process of upgrading the way you follow the upgrading of Kubernetes into the test environment or into the dev environment. Same thing. So usually we never go and try to do any kind of upgrade directly onto a production. No, never. We don't never do it. First, we will try to do the same, upgrade everything in the dev environment, test environment. Once that is done, we will see all kind of like all kind of flaws in the process, or what are all the pitfalls are there while doing the upgrade. Right? We will see all those things in our test environment, as well as we will try to do even in the dev environment. And the same thing what we do, that now we get an opportunity to do upgrade in the stage environment. Once the stage environment is successfully upgraded, then we are finally to go good with going with the production environment. So any kind of an upgradation also happen, guys. We have to do all the upgradation, everything in the from the lower environment only. We have to do it, because in that, by doing it upgradation, we will get to know all kind of a pitfalls while doing upgrade. And that is must, it is required, right? Because we cannot go and do upgrade in the production, because if the production goes down, assume that to recover back, maybe you might get a lot of challenges. So you cannot take any kind of a chance during a production, right? In the production, to see the downtime actually, and the customer won't tolerate any kind of a downtime even for 5 minutes also. So you can't take any kind of a risk or challenges during production upgrade. So guys, please be very serious when you are trying to do any kind of a work under production mode. You have to be 100% sure. Whatever you're doing, right, it is 100% it should work. It's not like that you cannot say that, okay, there is a 1% chance are there where the things might fail in production. No, you can't even take that note that, okay, 1% chances are there it will get failed. No, you should not do it. It means that you should be very perfect when you are trying to upgrade anything in the production environment, because you've already seen all kind of a challenges, you have seen all kind of a pitfalls on the onto the other lower environment. You have already faced the challenges actually. Why I'm saying this, because that even myself I have faced this issue, guys, because I was thoroughly working on the test environment and I had documented all the things step by step. But unfortunately, what happened, right? In the production mode, while upgrading it, actually, right, what happened, the things were not working, and those engineers, the production engineer team, they called me on the call and they said, Rajesh, things are not working, it is failed. And what they did, one small blunder mistake they did, that actually, that I had given a clear instruction of installing a certain package with that particular version. And what those fellow did, right? They somehow they didn't get that version which I have mentioned in the document, and those people, they upgraded some latest version of that package, which was not compatible with the what are the process we are doing it. And suddenly, what happened? Things were failing, and even I was also scratching my head like for few hours together. Why this is not working? Why this is not working? And then like how I found, like I just try to check the version of the RPM which they have installed, or version of the package version, and suddenly I found that that particular version, no, they installed some latest version. Then I got a question, why you did install this latest version? I told him. He said, what is the problem? I said, no, you have to install the same version what I given the document. How you can upgrade without even how do you can install the latest package without my consent? I told like that, because you need to follow strictly the document what you have given. So such kind of a challenge also you'll face in the real time, right, in your life actually. Am I clear, sir, guys? Did you understood? So take it
Yes,
very
right.
seriously. Whenever you are trying to do any upgrade in production, you have to be very serious. You need to stick the process. You need to stick to the steps what you are doing it. Don't do any other extra step. Don't no, bring on any other new things when you are trying to do upgrade in a production. That is a strict warning. And you need, if any changes are happening in the production environment, right? I will tell you guys, please take a sign on from everyone that you are doing the changes. Yeah, is it fine? From all the stakeholders, from all your, because whenever any issue happens in the production, you will be caught and you will be blamed, even though unnecessary, you will also be blamed. And I've seen all those challenges faced. I've seen all those things in the real time, guys. In all my 12 years of my experience, I've seen all those things actually. I've even dealt with the senior people. I got a harsh thing from the my manager also. He has no, he has harshly spoke with me. I've seen all such days actually. So we should not go into that into that mode where like people start blaming you. And that is a, of course, that is a learning thing actually. It's every fall in you, whatever you learn, guys, it is something like there's a failure behind that. Then only you will learn. Everything smoothly happening, you will not learn. That is also there. Fine. Now the thing is that, guys, all these days we know that Docker daemon is the one actually which was actually taking care. Yes, this was the first version of the things what was happening actually. Later, what happened, right? When the Docker community, Docker NC, Solomon Hayek and his team, they saw, okay, it is trying to integrate with this. Now, what they did, they tried to do some changes into this architecture. It means that they tried to do some changes into the daemon actually. Now, what they did basically, right, they break down into this Docker into multiple different subsystems like this. Now, what happened, right? They, this is nothing but your Docker client. This is a Docker client. Correct, right? This is whatever this Docker, this is a Docker client. And below is a Docker daemon. Yeah, of course, this is a Docker daemon. Docker daemon. Very good. Now what they did, right? The Docker daemon, what they did. Now the Docker daemon will not do anything by its own now. Now below the Docker daemon, what they did, right? They had something known as they added one other layer which they call as a container D. Now, this container is the one which actually manage everything, guys. Like for example, like you deal with a lot of images and all, right? And the images, all Docker images are stored in the image cache, right? Or the Docker cache, right? Those all the images are maintained by Docker D. All your storage is maintained by the Docker D. All your networking stuff is maintained by Docker D. So it's something like where now everything is handled by Docker D, not by Docker daemon. Earlier, Docker daemon zone which was to take care of everything. Now they said, okay, we'll separate this and we will give the all the work to container D actually. Now the container D, what happened, guys? The container D, what happened, right? It will not do by itself actually. It will try to call one component known as an OCI component actually. Open container initiative. Okay, so they call one component or they added one component and that is a OCI component, and that component what they call it as a runc, right? So this runc is the one which actually creates a container now. So that's how. Now whenever the client want to interact with the Docker daemon, it sends a request to the Docker daemon, but Docker daemon now it doesn't do anything by its own. Now it sends a request to a container D, and now the container D is going to go and call this runc. And this runc is the one which actually finally creates your container. This is what it creates a container. I'm sorry. This is what it creates a container. So a new running container is created by your runc now. And this runc is an OCI complaints. It means that it follows some standard. As I said, that open content initiative, it is something like it's a standard. It's an organization where they set up some kind of a standards. So you need to follow that standard whenever you're designing any of your any kind of a thing in a Docker or any kind of a thing in a container world, right? Whenever you're creating anything, that has to be OCI standard only. It will be that whenever you're trying to design any image, actually, the design or not design, the format, whatever you manage to create an image, oh, it has to be OCI complaints. Actually, without that, we will not allow the content to be created like that. So this is a big forum actually, which was started Open Content Initiative. It's something like I can say it's like a publisher. Like for example, you have an SQL, right? SQL is a standard actually. SQL is a standard. Now tomorrow what happened, right? MySQL came into the picture. So MySQL also is a database actually, but MySQL strictly follow the SQL standards actually. So the way the database are created, the way the database engine works, the way the database queries are executed, it's all to the MySQL SQL standards actually. Similarly, Windows came with something like SQL server, right? SQL server is a database from your Microsoft. So Microsoft have to follow all the standard which is provided by your SQL server, SQL actually. So SQL is something like a publisher's standard, and many other organizations they came up with their own database and they have to follow the standard. Similarly, OCI is like that actually. A runc is basically it is something like which is a runc component which is created in the Linux actually. So when you're working on Linux, yes, you have to follow they have followed the OCI complaints and they designed this runc which works only on Linux platform actually. Similarly, we have Windows. In Windows, there is a separate thing is that in that they have implemented certain other things. What is that? We'll see now. So they have designed certain things they called with some other name. But in Linux, basically they call as a runc. Now the problem is that actually here now runc is the one okay fine which finally creates a container. So this container will act like a child, right? It means that this is something like a child process, and runc is like a parent process, correct? But as I said, right, runc is something which actually is the one which actually creates a container. Yeah. But what happened? For timing, this runc will be a parent for this container. Soon after that, what happened, right? Because this runc cannot manage all the containers which are running in the system. Because assume that in this Linux machine where the Docker is installed and you are having some 100 containers, do you think that runc is a parent for all the 100 containers? No, because runc is doing so many other things. It has to even create many of the other requests also. Whenever any new requests are coming, runc has to do it. So what they did right, what they have did right, basically they what runc will do in turn. Now Ransi will say that okay, I am no longer your father. Let me do one thing. Let me create one other component which you call it as a SHM ID, shim ID, SHM shim actually. So now what happened? This shim will become a parent to your container now. So this is a newly created parent, right? So what happened? Runc, it will create a container, but Runc will also create something like a shim, and it will allocate this shim for this container. Now it says that okay, now whatever the communication you want to do, container want to do that communication to the shim itself actually. It's something like a shared memory which is provided for your container. So now what happened, right? Your container will be attached to the shared memory. So now the shim becomes a parent to the newly created container. So whenever you are creating n number of containers here like this is one container getting created like this. So many containers are created like this. Each and every container will get its own shim actually. It gets its own shim like this. Am I clear, sir? I mean, I'm just saying, but this is not one. So you have for every container, there will be a separate shim will be there like this. For this, and for this like this. Am I clear, sir? This is the container. So this container will be a pointer to a shim actually. It means that your pointer to a shim means your container will be working under that shim actually. Is that fine, sir? Now, why if they have made like this actually, why can't they, whatever the earlier way was, which was a Docker daemon was there, right? Why it was not that because of, one is that because of the upgrade. Like for example, tomorrow, if Linux operating system get upgraded, okay, and parallelly you have to even update your Docker daemon also. Okay, what happened that you can do the changes in a Docker daemon, you can even do the changes in the container on even the runc also. You can do the changes because now shim is controlling all your container. So basically what happened, even though there is some kind of an upgrade is happening, still your container will be running. Your container will not go down. Earlier what happened, this container was it was tightly integrated with the Docker daemon, right? When the upgradation was going on, this Docker daemon, sorry, the Docker container is to go down or it has to get stopped. Now the story has changed. So the second version of the Docker, which they released, right? They added all these things. Actually, they came up with the runc, shim, and other things, so that the running containers which are running in this Docker, right, that will not go down at all. So you will always see that the containers they are always up, even though some kind of upgradation is happening in the Docker daemon, right? That is what this second version was released actually. Am I clear, sir? So Docker client to the Docker daemon, the communication happen via, we call it as a REST API. Okay, through the REST API, it communicates. Okay, and between the Docker daemon to the Docker container, it uses gRPC. We will discuss about this later. gRPC communication. Through gRPC communication, the Docker daemon communicates with the container daemon. Am I clear, sir? So this is the final architecture in the second version, which was released actually. Okay, guys. So now whoever asks you, Rajesh, who actually creates a container? Your runc is a component which creates a container. So runc is actual parent for all the newly created container, but runc cannot manage all this container. Hence, what happened? It creates a shim and it assigns a shim to each and every newly created container. Now this shim will become a parent for the container actually. Right? So this is what the architecture is all about. Okay, this is the final architecture which we have to learn and understand, and you need to explain the same thing in the front of the interview whenever they ask how Docker daemon works. Can you explain me about the architecture? If it tells about that, you have to explain this thing. Don't explain the first one only. Don't just try to tell about Docker client, Docker daemon. You have to tell about all of these things also. You have to even talk about shim also, and he might ask you something. What is shim is all about? You can tell that runc will create a shim, and that shim will take care of control of each and every newly created container. Every container will have its own unique shim actually. That's all you have to take. So guys, here what happened? Your Docker daemon basically it is using the container D. Container D is again it's an open source container D technology. So using the container D also you can even create a container. So you can even create a container. But this Docker ANC community, right? They use this container D actually. Now if you go to the Google and if I try to do a container D, you can go to the first link. Can you see here? As of February 28, Container is officially a graduated project within the Cloud Native, following Kubernetes, Prometheus, NV, and Core DNS. Okay, now you could see the container is available as a daemon for Linux and Windows. It manages the complete container lifecycle of its host, from the image transfer and storage to a container execution and supervision at the low level storage to network attachment and beyond. Right. So this is what the architecture of your container D. So this looks complex for you as of now, but don't worry. As and when slowly we go, right, we will be able to understand very well. Now you could see that this container D, it is used across various different platforms. Like for example, Docker itself is using. Even cloud technologies like Azure or GCP or else AWS or Rancher or Alibaba Cloud, even they are also using this container D. Okay. Now if you see the client and you could see something like a container D engine is there, which the Docker also uses actually. It in turn has something like a containerd client. We will discuss about this later. What is this containerd client? Okay. Now what happened? The communication between the client to the containerd happened through the gRPC actually. That's the communication protocol which uses. Now you could see that there is a CRI is there. There's a containerd. Even the Prometheus also uses this API. But right now we will not discuss anything about Prometheus. We'll keep it aside. There are other things are there. Core is there, backend is there, but don't worry, guys. This is backend is something like this is for your something on the networking stuff and something on the plugin side actually. But if you see down, there's something the container D shim is there, and you know that for Linux is there, Kata is there, no G Visor is there, shim is there, right? Guys, can you able to hear me? Because
Network fluctuation.
yeah, there's a network fluctuation is happening now.
Yeah,
Oh,
for I
fine.
think or five
Fine.
seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even I
we,
saw that glitch actually. That's what I just stopped. I compared so many times to this Reliance actually, but okay. Now, so here you could see, guys, actually that the container is an engine actually, which a Docker uses container D internal, and this container D will in turn call this runc actually, and runc is the one which actually finally creates your container. So this is today you might not able to complete understand it, no problem, but after some time you will see that you will understand this whole architecture. Okay, and in our course, guys, I am also planning. I have also planning to add this build kit also. Okay, this is also one of the client component. This I'm going to add in this course actually. Okay, and also the CR control actually control D content. This also I will add it actually later. Not now. Another 7-8 session after 7-8 session, you will see that I will be explaining about build kit and all. At the time we will visit the same architecture. I'll explain about this also. Okay, fine. Now, good sir. Okay. Yeah, for the recording. For this time. Okay, fine. Now, what are the other things we'll learn? Let us try to learn about something about the commands. Guys, we will try to learn about the Docker commands now. Okay, slowly in another 1 or 2 sessions, we will try to cover as much as possible on all the Docker commands. And it's very important also we should know about the Docker commands. Okay. So now, first, before we get into Docker commands, let us try to understand about what are the different ways the container runs. Actually, there are basically two different ways are there, right? So running and I can say mm, running and executing in containers in different modes. Okay. So guys, uh, basically what happened that whenever you're running any container, right? Container always run in an by default, container always run in attached mode. Containers by default run in attached mode, right? For example, assume that let me log in into my Linux machine where Docker is installed. So I'll try to copy the public IP. Go to the terminal. I'll open the terminal. And copy the public IP. View आवाज का मतलब so you logged into the system, guys. Okay. Now assume that what do you mean by running in a foreground means basically, guys, in Linux also, whenever run any kind of a command, basically all the commands actually runs in the foreground. For example, if I try to do a something like ping google.com, if I try to run this command, basically this command is executing continuously, okay, without exiting out, right? And also you'll see that you're getting the output of this command execution in the foreground only, or it is not but in the screen only. Okay, it means that it is occupying your entire terminal. So if you ask me, Rajesh, how do I come out from this? Actually, you have to either say Control C, right? Or either you have to say Control C like this, or else what I have to do that basically I have to go to the some other terminal, log into again the same this one what I call the same server again, try to log in it. It means that try to have one more instance of the same thing and then execute the ps aux command. Try to check which is the process which is running actually. You could see that ping. Okay, and you could see that 3097 is there. You can even kill it also. Kill, what is it? 3097, right? Yeah, just kill that process actually. So that in the other terminal, what happened, right? It will get terminated, it will get killed actually. So this is how we do actually in the Linux. Same thing, whenever we are running any container, by default, the container will always be running in a attached mode. What do you mean by attached mode means? It will be attached to a terminal. It will attach to your standard output actually, or the standard error. Standard output, standard error, terminals actually. So whenever we are running any kind of a container, the container also uses some kind of a terminal only to get the inputs, to give the outputs like that. How we in the Linux, how we use this terminal, right? So why we use this terminal, guys? We use this terminal for the three purpose. There are three data channels are there: standard input, standard output, and standard error, right? 0, 1, and 2. That's the value actually, right? So 0 means standard input, 1 means standard output, and 2 is standard error. So by using this data channels, usually any commands when you execute in the Linux system, right? So it get executed with the help of a terminal. So terminals or the terminal or terminal driver we say, where it provides these three data channels: 0, 1, and 2, standard input, standard output, and standard error. So whenever you want to give the input, the standard input is not but your keyboard, right? This is a keyboard or not, but keyboard is your input device. Like when I'm typing something here, right? I'm typing. So I'm typing, I'm giving all the inputs from the keyboard. So whenever I try to give some inputs like this, and whenever I to enter, so what happened, right? Your command is given as an input to your shell, and the shell will execute that command and it will give the output also. So whatever the output is there, that is going to show where you're going to get the output, you're going to get in the screen itself or in your terminal itself, you're going to get. So the standard output is also terminal. Whenever you're doing any kind of error, suppose for example, I execute some nonsense command like this. So what you get the error? Something like command not found. So even that error, standard error also getting into the screen or the monitor or in the terminal itself actually. So that is what we call it as a three data channels actually. Similarly, whenever you are running any kind of a container also runs, also uses these terminals actually. Or rather, it also attached to a terminal and it uses this terminal as a data channels. Okay. Now, the thing is that now you say that Rajesh, when you ping to the google.com, you pinged it, but it is unnecessary occupying my whole terminal actually. Shall I want to run this command in the backend actually. It should be keep running the backend. So what you will do? You will do one thing, ping you use the same command ping. What you'll do, you'll redirect to some file, something I'll just say 1.txt file, and you will use something as ampersand. So when you use this ampersand, what happens? Ping output is going to your file. It is related to your file, and the whole command, whatever you're doing, you are running in a backend actually. So when I say enter, sorry, when I say enter, you could see that it is showing you the process ID. Okay, this is a process ID it got generated, and you could see that actually this process or this ping command is actually running in the background. If you try to run a ps aux command and say enter, can you see here your process is actually running in the background actually. And now what happened, right? By executing this way, what you achieved, you freed up your terminal. It means that you freed up this terminal and you can use for other purpose. It means that whenever you want to execute some other task, you can use the terminal, right? By executing. So when you execute like this command, so what happened, guys? It will give you some ID it gave actually. This is what is called as a process ID 3178. So if you come down, can you see 3178? See, that is a process ID. 3178 is a process ID which created. Similarly, whenever you're trying to run any kind of a container in the background, or when you're making a container to run in a detached mode, it throws you something as a container ID. The container ID is same thing like a PID. You have to understand in that way. So guys, did you understood the relation now? So it means that container basically will always be by default, it will be always in attached mode. It means that it consumes the terminal actually. So suppose you say that no, sir, I don't want the terminal to be used because I want to use the terminal for some other purposes. I cannot make a container to run, use my entire terminal. Then you have to say that I want to make that container to run in a detached mode, or but I have to make the container to run in a background actually. That we call the detached mode. Am I clear, sir? So now here what happened? We know that the Docker is installed here, guys. So when I try to execute the Docker info, just to verify, check whether Docker is installed or not, you could see that Docker is installed in my system. It is there. Now you see that if I try to execute this command, Docker run, I'll give some name, -fn name. I will give something like a web1, and I will just give the image name, the nginx, and say enter. So it says that it is unable to find that nginx locally. It is trying to pull from your Docker Hub, and finally what happens, see, it is running it actually. And you could see that actually it has started the process, and the process ID is something 29 showing, right? And you could see that actually it is occupying my terminal. See, it is occupying. So by default, when I run this command, Docker run -fn web1 nginx, it uses by default, it is in attached mode. So attached mode means it is consuming this terminal actually. Am I clear, sir? Right? Now, whenever I want to come out from this, actually, I don't have any option, but I have to do a control C only. So when I try to do a control C, now you could see that you are exited out from your container. So when you do a control C, you're actually sending a SIG CHLD signal. And with that, what happened? It is killing that running container, and you just exited out from it here, from here. Correct, sir? So when you try to do a Docker PS and say enter, so nothing is there. It is not showing. If you try to do a Docker PS-A, now you could see that actually it get exited out. Right? 28 seconds back, it exited out. The same nginx, which is the name with the name web1, right? Like if I want to, right? See, this is how. So this is what the entire output of Docker PS, right? This is how the output you're going to get like this. So you could see that the name is web1, and you could see that the status is always, so not always, here in this case, it is exited 0. Okay, and then this is the command, and this is the image, and this is the container ID. So whenever you're running any container, guys, for every container, there will be unique container ID will get created. Okay, and also a name will be assigned for that container. So if you're not giving a name like this, Docker run -fn, if you're not giving this name, or if you're not passing this value, -fn name, by default, Docker will take some kind of an arbitrary name and it will assign to it. Am I clear, sir? Till here? Now you say
Yes,
that, okay,
Rajesh.
fine. Now I want to run the image, but I want to make it I want to make it to run in a foreground, sorry, in the background actually. So it means that I want to detach it. So in that case, what you do that, you just say Docker container run -fn detach. You can either use -d like this, or else -fn detach. Okay, -fn name. Let me give some other name. I'll give web2 and give the image nginx and say enter. Now you could see that, guys. Now your Docker container is running in a background actually, because you have detached it. And you could see that as an output, it is actually giving you the container ID. This is something very big, something like a hash value it is showing. Yeah, it is a hash value, right? This is a container ID you're getting actually. So if I try to do a Docker PS and say enter, so you could see that your web2, that is nothing but a container 2 is running, which you just started now. And whatever you are having this big number, right? It will give you a short form of this. This is a short form like this, up to 82, right? Till here it is displaying actually like this. Okay, only the first shorter value only it will take. It will show us that this is a container ID. Yes, this is a container ID, and you could see that the status is up from 23 seconds. Earlier, when you try to do exit, when I tried to do a control C, you see that it got exited out. It means that it exited with a zero status actually. So zero is an exit value. So zero means it is successfully that got exited. Suppose in case if you see sometime you might see exit at 137, 127, some other positive integer value you will see in this bracket, then it means that it is not safely exited. It has forcibly it got exited actually. So whenever any kind of a container, when it exits successfully, always the return will be zero. Safely it has exited. Whenever you want to forcibly exit it, then the exit value or the exit status error code will be some other value. It will be some other positive integer value, like 127, 137, and so on. Right? So always, guys, whenever you try to run any Docker container, we always see this status also. We'll also keep checking like what is the status it shows. Sometime you might see some kind of a strange status you might see, something like pause, unpause, waiting, something like that you will see the status. So by seeing the status, you should understand what is the current status of this running container, or what is the current status of this container actually. Whenever you see something like up means up 23 seconds, up for 1 minute, up for 2 hours, up for 10 hours, it means that this container is always running. It means the container is continuously running actually. Right? So whenever you are seeing any kind of a container which is running, you need to just think that okay, this container is actually running in a detached mode, or it is running in a background. Like that you have to think. Is it clear, sir? Okay, good. Okay, container by default run in attached mode, which displays in the standard output stderr in the current terminal. Like this. What is the command? Docker run -fn name. I'll just say web1. And if I care to give like this, so this command will try to run it will try to use consume your terminal actually. Okay. Container can be run in the background without blocking the, what is it? Blocking the terminal, right? Blocking the terminal, which is referred as, what is it? Detached mode actually, which returns a container ID. So for that, you have to run a command, docker run. You can say -f detach, or else I just say -d, -f name web2 nginx. Am I clear, sir? Okay, good. Okay, there's other mode is there. Okay, other mode is there, which we call, which other mode, which is called as interactive mode actually, or interactive mode, or interactive terminal. So when you want to run a shell actually, Okay. Am I clear, sir? So it means that basically what happened right now, you have made your container to run in a detached mode. When you try to do a Docker container run hyphen detach hyphen name, some name web to nginx, you made your container to run in a detached mode. But is there any way where I can interactively connect with this Docker container which is running, or else I want to log in inside this container? I want to log in container. That is what we call it as an interactive terminal. You want to get into an interactive terminal, it means that you have to just log into this container actually, or else you have to attach to this container. So when you attach it, by default, you will get inside the container actually. That we call as an attach mode. Am I clear, sir? Now, for example, you said that Rajesh, when I'm creating a container itself, by that time itself, I need to get a terminal. Or whether while creating a container itself, I want to log in inside the container while getting created only. Yeah. For that, what you do? You can run a command docker. What is it actually? Container run hyphen it. It means interactive terminal. I means interactive. T means terminal. I'll just say hyphen of a name. I'll give something named as a web3. Okay, I'll just give as a nginx, and while logging it, I want to get a bash shell like this. So /bin/bash and say enter. Okay, Docker container hyphen it hyphen name. What happened, man? Oh, sorry. I think I've come out from right. Sorry, I've exited out. Web3. What is the image name? Nginx /bin/bash. So you could see, guys, now as soon as you are running this running this command, you are creating one more container, and you are getting inside the container by using this hyphen it option, and you specify the shell. Now, some question might ask by some people, sir, how do you know that it is /bin/bash? So most of the recent containers or recent image, guys, they use the /bin/bash. Some of the olden images are there, like for example, Alpine image there, they use something like a /bin/sh. And some other images are there where they will give you some other shell actually. How do you get to know all these things? If you go to the hub.docker.com, and if you try to search for the official documentation, official image information about the Nginx, in the documentation, they would have given that what shell it uses actually. It means that this is a by default with, if you want to log in or if you want to log inside this container, then they said, okay, you have to give that shell actually. So you will get all those details from the documentation itself. You will not get anywhere. You have to go to the hub.docker.com. There you'll get all the information. Am I clear, sir? But most of the recent newly created image which are used, preferably like kind of a Linux kind of a container where you use some like a Linux commands to interact with that image actually, then they will give the shell itself actually, and you will be able to log in inside the running container by using a hyphen it option with the /bin/bash. So now you could see that you are logged in inside it actually. Am I clear, sir? Right?
Right.
Now, if you are inside here, now if you execute the ls, you could see that this is your file system actually. So if you execute pwd, you are under /partition. Now, if you are here, if you go to the bin folder and say ls, can you see these are all the commands are there. So nginx, this is the image. Nginx supporting all these commands. It supports the cp command, it supports the curl command, it supports the date command. You could see, and you could also see there's something like a bash is there. So that's what if you have something like ls/bin/bash. See, yeah, this is there. That is what happened, right? When you are logging in or when you are trying to connect with through the interactive mode, and you are able to log in because /bin/bash is supported by your Nginx image. That's what you're able to log in inside this container. Am I clear, sir? Right? And when you want to exit out from that, you can just say exit. See, you exit out from that container. Now, when you try to do a Docker PS and say enter, Let's see. So you could see that web3, right? It is not available here because you exited out from, right. Automatically what happened, right? That container got killed actually. Now when I try to do a docker ps-a, so now you could see that, guys, your web3, right? See, it has exited with the 18 seconds ago. Clear? Only this is the only container which is running now till now because you made it to detach mode, right? It is running in the background. Whereas other one, yeah, it got created, but you exited out, right? You just exited out, or sometimes you killed it actually, so it got exited out, right? So other mode which is called as interactive terminal, when you want to run a shell, we will shell when you want to run a shell, we get a default bash shell. We can discuss about this later. I mean, I will discuss out more about this interactive terminal or interactive mode later, actually, right? And so what happened once the container is running, guys, we can execute the commands in a container actually. Once the container is running, we can execute uh, any commands, not any commands, the commands which are provided in the container, right? For example, I want to log in inside the container actually. Like for example, if I try to do docker ps, sorry, when I try to do a docker ps, you could see that this container is running. I want to get login inside the container. I want to join. I want to log in the container inside the container. Then we use a command as a docker exec actually. Okay. So for example, here what we do basically, we try to do a use a command as a docker exec and give something as a name of the container or container ID. Okay. And then we use something like a command actually. Right, guys? Now, for example, here in this case, this is the container which is running, right? When I try to do docker exec and specify the container name, I'll just say web2. And here I can pass some kind of a command. Like for example, if I'm passing who am I? See, it shows that the user who is running, right? This is the default, it has a root user actually. Similarly, if I try to execute something like pwd, current working directory, what is the current working directory? Inside the running container, it will be something like a slash. If I try to execute some other commands, like for example, if I try to execute the ps command, let's say ps is there inside the container or not. Let's see. See, the ps command is not there. It means that you have to install the ps inside it. Similarly, if I want to check something like a ipaddr command, let's see if ipaddr command is there. I don't know. I'll just checking out. ipaddr is also not there. It means that you have to even install ip command also inside. So this command, some of these commands are not there, like the ps command, ipaddr. There are many such commands are there, which might not be available inside the container actually. So if you want it, you have to go and install it actually. Am I clear, sir? And whenever you want to log in inside the running container, we know obviously that the command is docker container exec -it, give the name of the container or the container ID, or you can say container ID. Okay. And you have to give the bash or the terminal name, like /bin/bash, like this. This is the command actually, right? So how to do it? We know it very well. Docker container exec, then -it. What is it? Web2, right? Web2, and then say /bin/bash. So now you could say you are inside the container. So this we have been seeing many times, but I'm just officially telling that, okay, whenever you want to log in inside the container, you have to always use exec with the -it option and give the shell or the terminal or the shell with which you are logging in. Clear, sir? Okay. Now I'll exit out. So if I try to do a docker ps-a, you could see that these three containers are there. Now you say that, Rajesh, I don't want all this container. I want to just remove all this container. You can just run a command, docker container, what is it? RM command with the -f. Forcibly, you are you want to kill all the container. Like I'll just say web 1, web 2, and web 3. See, you are removing all the container. When I try to do a Docker ps-e, you could see that actually no containers are running. Am I clear, sir? Till here? Now, good. Now, the thing is that suppose if you're not giving any container name while creating it. So, for example, if I try to run a command, docker container run. So we know that always we use this option hyphen name, and I'll give something like a web one and give the nginx, right? This is what I give, right? Suppose if I'm not giving a name actually. Okay. But I will be using the detachment because I want to detach it because I want to use a terminal, right? That's what I'm using hyphen D option. So I'll say enter. You could see that your Docker container is running now. Sorry, a container is running now. Now you could see that actually this, since you're not giving any name, guys, you could see that it is using some name actually, default name. So what Docker will do that whenever you're not passing any kind of an option, hyphen F name option, by default, Docker will try to assign some arbitrary name for it. Something like here, festive rot engine, some name it will give it like this. And obviously, this is your container ID. For every container, for every newly created container, the Docker has to assign a container ID for that actually. So daemon, the Docker daemon, which always communicates with your Docker, every Docker with its container ID only, not with the name. This name is for our purpose. For a human to understand human, this name is beyond. But how Docker container will communicate with Docker, daemon will communicate with the Docker, any Docker, with the help of only container ID. So now this is a name you are given, but you say that Rajesh, I don't want to have this name. I need to have some name known as a web one. That is my name. I want to have it. So no, you have some option like Docker container. We use some command, something like a rename command, and specify the container ID like this, and give the name like this. Something like I'll give web one and say enter. So now if you try to do a Docker PS, now you could see that actually guys, it has given a name as it has renamed the name as web one. So even though if you're not giving, if you're missed to give the name while creating a container, you can still give a name or you can rename it with the help of a rename command. Right? Very good. Okay. Right. Now, uh, because guys, we have used so many images for doing some activities, right? If I want to check all the images which are there in my system, I'll always run a command as a docker image and just say ls. Now you could see that actually right now I'm using this only one image in the nginx, okay, and it is using a by default tag which is nothing but latest. So when I try to run any container, if I'm just giving a container name, sorry, if you're giving any image name, and if you're not giving any kind of a version or the tag with which you want to use that particular image, then what happened? Docker by default will try to pull the latest image of that nginx or latest image only. It will try to pull from the hub.docker.com, right? So tomorrow you say that Rajesh, I want to use something like a MySQL actually. So in that case, what happened that you use something like a Docker pull command, and then I'll just say MySQL. So Docker pull, what it will do that it will try to pull the MySQL image from your hub.docker.com. Suppose in case what the Docker pull will do, first it will try to check in the cache if any MySQL image is already there or not. If it is not there, then what happen? Your Docker will try to connect with the hub.docker.com and will try to pull it. Here again, what happened? I'm not giving any kind of a version, right? So what happened by default when you're trying to do it, what it will do that it will try to by default pull the MySQL latest image only with the tag no the colon latest, something like that. MySQL colon latest, right? That is what with the image it will try to pull it. So if I try to run this command and say enter, so you could see that by default it is using the tag latest, and then like you could see that it starts downloading it. Okay, it has downloaded. Can you see it? It has downloaded. When I try to do a Docker image ls, now you could see that it has downloaded the MySQL with the latest as a tag. And this is the ID, image ID we say. This is image ID. How much disk it is using? It is using 1.29 GB. What is the container size? 293 MB, right? And this is nothing but the 62 MB container size, content size actually. This is a disk size, a disk usage actually, right? So when you try to do a Docker image ls, it will show you all the images which are there in your cache actually. So Docker maintain its own cache, which we call as a Docker cache. Okay. And from the Docker cache, what happened, right? All the images are placed in Docker cache. So tomorrow, whenever you are running any container, whenever you're creating any new container, say for example, you want to create a new container which you want to run Nginx. So what happened initially, the Docker will try to check in the cache whether it's there or not. Yes, this image there. It'll just directly try to take this image from the cache and it will create a container out of it actually. Similarly, MySQL is already there now. Now, tomorrow, if you want to run any kind of a container where you are running a MySQL container or right, you want to use this. So automatically what happens, this image will be taken from the cache and it will try to create a MySQL container, right? So it always keep a copy of in the local cache actually. Am I clear, sir? Okay. So now you say that, okay, Rajesh, I want to run this MySQL container now. Okay. When I try to do a Docker PS, let's see. Yeah, there's already one Nginx image is running actually, and the name is Web1. Okay. Now I want to run this MySQL. So for running MySQL on a database, guys, you can, if you directly try to run it, basically it won't run because when you try to run it, you have to pass some username and the password because since it is a MySQL container, right? It expects you to pass some kind of a username and the password. Assume that you're not passing any kind of a username and the password, then what happens? The container will not get created. It will throw error saying that it expects some kind of a variable to be passed like that. Okay. For example, if you try to run Docker container run hyphen it hyphen fn name, something I'll give something like MySQL server, something like that. And the image what I'm using is a MySQL. So MySQL, whatever the latest image are, which I'm using it here. So when I'm trying to run this container, you could see that it throws error saying that actually the database is uninitialized and the password option is not specified. You have to use any one of this environment variable. Now you could see that if you already have a root passwords, okay, you can give hyphen MySQL root password, or else if you don't want to have the password, you can even pass some environment variable, something like MySQL allow empty password is equal to true like that. So that you have to pass it. So you have to use any one of this environment variable when you're running it. So how do you pass it actually? Basically, when you're trying to run a Docker container run, you have to, whenever you want to pass any parameters, guys, or the environment variable, sorry, you have to use a hyphen E option. Hyphen E option is meant for passing any kind of an environment variable in the command line whenever you're creating a container. Am I clear, sir? How do you do that? You do the same command, Docker container run hyphen it. Okay, after that, you have to use a hyphen E option, hyphen E, and then like, let me use this variable, environment variable. Allow MySQL empty password is equal to true, like this. Anything else is required? MySQL server. I'll just give MySQL. I'll not give MySQL. I'll just give MySQL only. I'll give. Okay, and then say MySQL image actually, right? So let's see it works or not. Yeah, it is running now. So you could see that actually, guys, it has started running now. MySQL D started running now, and the PID is 118. And to which port number it is using? So we know that always MySQL uses the port number. What is it? 33. What is it? 3306. Huh? Yeah, 3306. See, the port is running. This is the port with which your MySQL is running actually. But since while running it, I didn't pass anything that is a detached mode. Hence, what happened, right? By default, it uses the attach mode and it is using this entire terminal. Am I clear, sir? Guys, is it fine till here?
Rajesh,
Yeah.
in interactive mode also, this PowerShell foreground only it work actually.
Yes, this is working a foreground. It is consuming your terminal. If you don't want to do it, actually, that's what I said. You should have passed -d option here. When you're running this command, no, here before after Docker container -d, I should have passed it, right? So now what happened? That if you go to the other terminal, where I think this I have lost it actually. I have to again log into this. The same instance I'm logging in, right? Now, now if I try to do a Docker ps-a, this has become very slow, guys, because this is only 1 GB of RAM memory, 1 GB, right? Tomorrow, next class, what happened? I will try to take some bigger this one uh, server, and then because this will be too dead slow otherwise. So you could see that you are running a MySQL, right? And you could see that now it is up and running, right? It is using, so under the which port it is using? 3306 port number it is using actually, right? The earlier one which we run, right? It runs it, but it just exited out with one. Okay, it didn't exit save forcibly. It did exit safely. It exited the one because you didn't pass any kind of a password. So it created content, but immediately it exited out actually, right? And this one already it is running from long time, right? Am I clear, sir? Right? This is the output you're going to get like this. Am I clear, sir? So now here, if I go here and if I try to do a control C or exit, control C, so it is not getting killed actually because it is occupying the terminal. So what I will do basically, I'll go here. I'll try to run a Docker container. What is it? rm-f. Give this container ID or give the name MySQL. So you killed it. See? So you came out from the terminal, right? So now you say that Raj, I want to run it. Yeah, no problem. Use the same thing, man. So here what happened, right? You have to use a -it and you can use a -d it detach mode. See, now it is running. Now when you try to do a Docker ps-a, now you could see that your Docker MySQL is running now, right? It is running. Am I clear, sir? Okay, good. Okay, sir. Now my question comes that, fine, Rajesh, this is far good, everything. But sometime what happened, guys? What happened, right? These are the contents which are running. Okay, Docker container, ls-a, you can do like this also. This will show you all the contents which are running, or you can just say Docker ps also. Docker ps-a. This also shows you. Now you see that from long time you are running your Nginx container and it is running from last 12 minutes. Fine, good. Now suppose assume that tomorrow you want something that this container should not respond for any kind of a request, or it's something you have to stop it. It means that basically you don't want to handle any kind of a further request by this container. Basically you have to something like you want to pause it actually, right? Pausing means it doesn't matter you're killing this terminal or you're stopping this terminal. No, you are still the content is still running up and running, but it should not accept any kind of a new connection or new request from any client. It means that basically you have to pause this execution of this container. Then in that case, guys, we use something as a pause. So if I try to do a Docker container, PAC pause, and if I give the container name like something like web1 and say enter, now you have paused this container. When you try to do a Docker ps-a, now you could see that, guys, the status you see here, it is running from 13 minutes, but now it is in a pause state. It means that you are not allowing any kind of a request to be, I mean, any kind of a new request, this container will not handle it actually, right? So this is one time, same time they'll ask in interview. Okay, man, you are having a container which is running a web server. Web server, we know that it will try to receive many connections actually from any kind of a client, right? Suppose for some time you want to pause it, or for example, you want to do some kind of a maintenance activity for this container. So even though container is running, you should not receive any kind of request. What you're going to do? You have to just say pause actually. So Docker container pause and specify the container name or the container ID. It will get paused. So to unpause it, what you do? What you do, guys? You will just say unpause only, simply, right? You'll just say unpaused. So Docker container unpause and specify the container name or the container ID. It has unpaused now. Now, if I execute the Docker ps-a, now you could see that now the status has changed. From paused, it has removed it actually. So now any new request comes to the to this container, it'll handle that request actually. Right? Good. Now we know that whenever we want to stop any container, actually, we use a command as a Docker container stop, right? For example, if I try to do Docker container, if I want to stop this container, MySQL container, I'll just say Docker container stop and specify this container name or container ID. This is the container ID, right? D3 something like this. This is a container ID. So I'll give this container ID and say enter. So now you could see that, guys, you have made your container to be stopped actually. If I try to do a Docker ps-a, now you could see that, guys, your container, this container, right, which you just now stopped, right, it has gone to the exit state. Now you could see that it has exited with a 0 value. Okay. So you can either stop it or else you can make any container, you can send something like a wait for that container. It means that it has to wait for certain event to happen. Say, for example, if this Nginx is running, suppose assume that if I'm trying to do something like a Docker container, if I use a command, the wait command, and specify the container name and something like web1, see, it get halted actually. It means that it has made your web1 container to be wait for certain event to happen. It means that it will wait until and until this web1 container is getting killed actually. So you could see that you cannot do anything in the terminal, it is just waiting. Now what happened, right? If you go to the other terminal, where is it? You go to other terminal, and here what happened, if you try to do a Docker container, what is the, I will just try to do a kill actually to that. What is that? Web1, right? See, web1. Now you could see that you have killed the container. Now you could see that now what happened? See, you came out from that actually. You came out from the terminal. It means that it is waiting for some event to happen onto this web1 container until unless it is getting blocked here. It is making the content to be blocked. Here in the other terminal, what we did, I went and I just tried to kill that actually. Kill that web1 container so that what happened, right? Here it got freed. So as soon as it's received that signal saying, okay, some user is trying to send a kill, oh, it means that I have to release that actually. So it means that it was waiting till now to some event to happen. Now the event has occurred. Okay, it has released that terminal actually. And you're getting a status as 137. It means that this web1, it has exited out with this 137 as an exit status error. Now, if you try to do a Docker ps-a and say enter, can you see here, guys? Now this web1, which is nothing but this Nginx, it has exited with the 137 error value. So 0 is always success. Apart from 0, any positive integer value like 1, 1, 2, 3, 127 or 137, these are all the forcibly you are making the container to be killed or to be stopped actually. Am I clear, sir? See, whenever you stop any container, right? Whenever you stop a container, it will always stop with the exit for 0 only. It means the safe you are stopping. So, for example, if you're trying to do a Docker container run hyphen hyphen d, what is it? Hyphen name. I will use something like a web3 or web3 or web2 something. Okay, Nginx. See, this container is running. When I try to do a Docker ps-a, you could see that this container is up and running. Now, what I will do that I want to stop that container. So if I try to do a Docker container stop and specify the name here, web2, right? See here, the status is it is up and running from 1 second. Okay. When I try to do web2, it has stopped the container. When I try to do a Docker PSFNA, can you see that it has exited with the status 0? So it has safely exited. It doesn't mean that it has forcibly exited. Always 0 is always success. Apart from 0, any other possible result, 1, 2, 3, 127, 137, whatever might be, it is not, but these are all they forcibly you have killed or forcibly have stopped or you have made, you have forcibly have exited that container actually. Is it fine, sir? Good. Okay. Now, what are the other things are there, guys? There are so many other commands are there to run actually. Uh, for example, let me take another 15 minutes more and we will try to complete few more commands actually, right? Now, the thing is that actually, guys, say for example, you want to run some container. Okay. For example, or else what I can say, for example, you want to, let me check Docker container hyphen fn help. Let me check what are the options you have. You have sometimes a copy. Yeah. Let me see how to copy it actually. Okay. Am I clear, sir? How to copy it? For example, you want to, let me create one container, right? Docker container run hyphen D detach mode. I will give the name hyphen fn name Docker ps hyphen a. So you're having something like web 1, web 2, all these things. So I'll try to remove all these things. Docker container hyphen rf web 1 mysql hyphen server mysql and I'll just say web 2. So I'm removing everything. If I try to do a Docker ps hyphen a, nothing is there. Now I'll try to create one more container Docker container. Okay. Hyphen D, Docker container run hyphen D. And then like I will give the something like hyphen name. I'll give the same name like web1. Okay. Space. I'll give some image, something like Nginx actually. So we know that the Nginx will start running, right? If you try to do a Docker PS, you could see that it is running. Now my question is that actually that, Rajesh, I want to copy some content in this Nginx, inside this Nginx. How to copy it actually? So for example, if I have some file, for example, I will, okay, this file is already there, right? 1.txt is already there, right? If I try to do cat of 1.txt, oh, this has so many contents. Okay, I'll do one thing. Let me remove it. I don't want to copy this file. It's a big lengthy file. So what I will do that I will try to use the same file 1.txt. Okay, and I will try to write some text inside. Hello to 1.txt file. Now when I try to do a cat of 1.txt file, you could see that this is a file content you are having. Now your requirement is that Rajesh, I want to copy this 1.txt file under your Nginx container, right? So this container which is running, right? What is that? The container name web1 or this is the container ID. I want to copy inside it actually. Okay. How do you copy it actually? So it's simple, guys. You have to just say Docker container. What is it? CP command. Okay. What is the file? 1.txt, right? Where is that file? Yeah. Docker container CP command 1.txt file. Where you want to copy? You want to copy under the web1 container. Yeah, this is a container ID. I'll give this container ID. Where you want to copy? I want to copy under something. Under that, there will be something like a temp will be there. I want to copy there. See, you have successfully copied this file under this containers. Under that, there is something like a dot slash temp is there. There you copied it. Am I clear, sir? So now you say that, Rajesh, I want to check it out whether it's copied or not. Yeah, no problem. You can just log in inside the container. I'll just say Docker container, and let me see whether I can use attach command, attach, and then the container ID. This is a container ID. I'm attaching it, or else I'm logging inside this container. You're not able to attach it. I think you can only attach to some kind of OS image like Ubuntu or Alpine. I don't think that you can do it like this. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me do a control C. I'm not able to attach it. So no problem. I'll just say Docker container exec, what is it, hyphen IT, and I will give you the container name web1 slash bin slash bash. Okay. I'm not running a Docker container ls. Oh, oh, what happened? How come it exited out? Oh, I did something like I attached it and then I did a control C. That's what it went out. Okay, okay, got it, got it. Let me do one thing. Let me create a something new. Docker container run hyphen D. Okay, hyphen fn name something like a web server something, and I'll give something like Ubuntu 24.04 image. I'm using this Ubuntu image. Okay, with the hyphen D option I'm running. Okay, detach mode. Right? So if you try to do a Docker ps-a or ps-a, you could see that it is running actually. Oh God, how come sir? This got strange. How come this has got killed actually? How come this got killed? Oh, okay, okay. This is Ubuntu, right? You have to get into interactive mode. Sorry, sorry, sorry. So Docker, one second, guys. Docker container rm-f web1 and web-server. Let me remove all these things. Okay, sorry, I got it. Docker container run hyphen IT, IT interactive mode, and then like you have to give hyphen fn name, something like uh, my server, something, my server, and give the name as Ubuntu 24.04. Okay. So now you have got into interactive mode. Now, if you go in the other terminal, and if you try to log in into this, if you try to check the Docker ps-a, so now you could see that your container Ubuntu image is up and running. So my requirement is that actually that I want to copy this file.txt inside the container. So I use the command docker container cp command and give the file name one.txt file and give the container ID or the image name where you want to copy. I want to copy under the slash temp. So you copied the file successfully. And if you come over here and if you exit pwd and say ls, you could see that there's a temp directory is there. So if you go to the slash temp directory, you could see that actually this file is copied here. Am I clear, sir? So it means that you, whenever you want to copy any kind of a file from outside to the inside the container, then you have to use a copy command. Docker container cp, give the file name and give the image ID or the image name colon and path where you want to copy it. Is it fine, guys? Right?
Yes, Raj.
You can even do anything. Like for example, if I want to touch Alice, Bob, John, something three file I created. I want to create a tarball of it actually. So you can just say tar -cvf. Okay, I'll just say names.tar and Alice, Bob, and John. These are three files. I'm creating a tarball. So you want to copy this tar file to the container under the same path. No problem, same thing. Docker container, cp command. Instead of this one.txt, you can give the tarball also, anything. Names dot tar, and you're copying it to the same path actually. So if you go here and if you try to do ls, you could see that the names dot tar got copied to the temp directory. Right? Now you say that there is one request comes to you that Rajesh, this is running, this Docker command, this Docker pack, sorry, this container is running. This container is running. Suppose, for example, I want to give this container, okay, with the image actually as an image, or you want to give to your friend, or you want to provide this container which is running right to some other person actually who is working on some other project, but he want the same image actually. So in that case, you have to export it actually. So how to do it actually? You have to just say Docker container export and specify the container ID, right? And you can just say greater than some name, like something like a, you want to give this as a tarball to a friend actually. So you have to first export it actually, and you have to use greater than. You can either use greater than, or else there is an option in the hyphen o option, and give the name web.tar something. So you could see that you have exported this whole image as a tar file, and this is the web.tar which is there. Now what happened? You can give this web.tar to a friend actually, and now he want to use this web.tar, create an image, and then you have to run an image actually. Am I clear, sir? So how your friend is going to do? Your friend will take this. Your friend will take this web.tar. Okay, and now what is happening that he will say that, okay, Rajesh, I want to create an image. Yes, you have to create an image. How you are going to do it? He has to run a command Docker container, or not, sorry, Docker container, Docker image, and first he has to import it actually. Import it. What is the tarball name? Web.tar. Okay, that is a tar. And then like what is the image name is saying? It's saying something like my web image. Something he's trying to give the name. So when imported, basically what happened, he is importing as an image actually from the web.tar. Right? And after that, what he will do, he will execute a command Docker image ls. He could see that he got an image with the name mywebimage.tar. This is the image he got it actually. See, he got this image. Am I clear, sir? Now he can take this image and he can run that image actually, right? He can run it actually. So how to run it? He will just say, he will use the same command Docker container run -it, something like my image, or he will run it with the -it. What is that? My web image, right? This is the image name, right? My web image. What is it? /bin/bash. See, he is running the content. He's running it actually. Am I clear, sir? He's running it now. So in this way, what happened, right? You need to export it with the help of export command, and then you need to provide some kind of a tarball. That tarball you will give to a friend. He will try to import as an image actually. So he has to use a Docker image import, specify the tarball which is given, and he has to give the image name, with which image name you want to create. So when you try to run this command, usually what happened, right? Out of this web.tar, it is going to create an image, my web image, with the latest something as a tag, as a something colon latest, and then you will be able to see that image is being present locally in your system, and then you can take this image and you can run it actually. Am I clear, sir?
Yes, Rajesh, one doubt.
Yes, sir.
This is here 118 MB is showing for my web image latest.
uh,
Uh, it is taking from where actually this is given from OS level only.
Taking from where means I
118 MB.
uh,
It automatically created or
automatically it created with this image only, with this web.tar. It created this image with the name my web image. And while creating the image, automatically whatever the disk it is user, it is showing that this is the image size actually. The image size is 118 MB.
total image size is 118. Out of that, whatever the tar name 30.6 MB.
No, this is the but this is the content, sir. Like when you're running the MySQL, right? See, this is the entire image, right? But the content size, it means that basically this is the disk utilization. These are disk it is using actually, right? For example, if Nginx is the latest, the disk user is 228. It this much is occupying. But when you try to create a container, it might take a container size of 62 MB. It might use a 62 MB actually. That would be the size of the container which it takes actually. That's what the content size it is showing. This might differ based on your utilization. Suppose you are adding many commands, you're installing many package inside it. This might grow actually, but the total disk occupied by your image size is 2 to MB, 2 to 8 MB in case of this one. Similarly, you're able to,
Whatever the latest is from Docker.hub, it is taking 228 times.
yeah, this is what it is. Yeah. Suppose if I try to download the image, right? I download this image from the hub.docker.com, right? So when you downloaded it, right, this is the downloadable size actually.
So,
So it means this is what the disk it is utilizing, your storage it is utilizing. When you try to run a container from this, it'll take this much of memory, this much of MB of size it may take.
oh, fine.
And this is a image ID actually. What are this is saying? It's the image ID. You can even remove the image also. Docker image, RM, and then specify this image name. You can remove even these images also from your local cache. Okay. Fine, guys. I think I can stop it at this point of time. We just started with executing some few commands only. Later, there are many commands are there. I just did a export and import. There are many commands are there. Like for example, if you go to the Docker container -fnl, you will see that there are so many options are there. Like commit is there, diff is there, exec we saw it, export we saw it. Yeah, inspect is there, kill also we saw, log we didn't check, pause we saw today, port, prune, rename we saw today, restart, rm, run, start, stats. Some are missing, unpause we saw, update we have to say, wait also we saw today in one example, right? Few of the things are missing. We will be covering in our next session. Okay, what would be the next topic is that next agenda tomorrow session tomorrow we will continue with the Docker command only. Continue with the Docker command. It might complete in 1 hour actually, next 1 hour. And the remaining hour, what we will do that we will try to learn the we'll try to understand about the Docker file. How to write a Docker file, what is a Docker file is all about, and how to write a Docker file. We'll also check. We'll start from tomorrow session. Right. And this is what Docker file is something, guys, which I want to spend maximum time because many people like as being a DevOps engineer, right? We basically we our one of our main important work in Docker is that how to write a Docker file and how to fix any kind of issues when you face in the Docker file and how to optimize your Docker file and how to make your Docker file more secure, right? So this is what all the work which has been taken care by the DevOps engineer. So we will push more and we will put more and more time in understanding this Docker file and also play around with this Docker file, create a lot of different kinds of images, right? Suppose tomorrow you're building a Python Flask image, okay, Python Flask application. Yeah, you should know how to build it. Suppose you want to build a Java based application, you should know how to build it. Similarly, .NET based application, similarly like Node.js based application, right? You could come across with a lot of different kinds of application, right, application, and then for that you need to write a Docker file actually. So this is what which is very important, and also obviously in every interview they ask the questions mostly on the Docker file itself, right? Commands nowadays I'm seeing, earlier like 2 3 years back they used to ask a lot of Docker commands. Now what happened in interview process, what happened, right? They have stopped asking any questions about related Docker commands. We should be aware because we don't know, blue moon somebody will come and ask you some commands actually, right? Basically he might ask you that, okay Rajesh, you know that Docker will generate so many logs. Yeah, correct. I want to get the timestamp difference between like last 10 minutes of that, or else I want to get the logs from specified time until for 10 minutes, right? Next to 10 minutes. Can you tell me what is an option we use actually? So there is something like a -fn times is there. That's the option along with the Docker log. We use -fn time and then -fn until is there. These are two options we use it for extracting that locks between those two time intervals. So this is what he will be expecting. And one more thing I want to tell you very clearly to everyone, guys. It's includes for the people who watch in the YouTube also. Guys, when you're answering any kind of a question, be very specific. You give the exact command, whatever it is used, like that. Don't just vaguely say that, okay, sir, I know this is the option we use. These are, they won't, even though you're telling the option correctly, hyphen, hyphen, time, hyphen, hyphen, until whatever there is there, you're telling it, but they won't accept by just telling it actually. You have to give the complete command along with the option and along with the value also. You have to give it correctly so that he will understand that he will get to know, okay, that you have worked on it. See why I'm telling you, because I've seen many of the interview people are getting failed. Okay, uh, it's not like because of they don't know or because of lack of. It's something like they're not able to present in a proper way in a front of interviewer. So what the interviewer expects, right? I have seen all these interviewers, right? Whoever takes interview, I've seen that they are not satisfied only by providing some option or only by giving some kind of high level answer. They are not at all satisfied. Even though you feel like you're giving a right answer, but ultimately what happened, they won't accept that as answer. They just not that okay, okay, they'll say, but it means that you just take it that you're rejected, almost you're rejected. So don't take any kind of a commands, everything in a light way, right? Because when you execute so many times commands, right, you should be able to tell in a proper way. This is the command is used, and this is the command, and I run this command like this. You have to tell him with the proper option, with everything, the way you are you are executing the system actually. Why I'm saying, because that if you suppose assume that you say yourself that you are a DevOps engineer, and you have worked for Kubernetes from last 7 8 years, and he will ask you some commands related to the Kubernetes or some concept he will ask you where he will expect you to give answer. But while answering it, you'll also tell about the command which is used. Okay, while explaining the concept. So when you try to tell the command, you need to tell the command along with the option, guys. You cannot simply say, okay, I use that kubectl something, I use that like that. If you say like that vaguely, so then he might get a doubt. He think that what this fellow, he claims that he's working from 8 years. He even doesn't know what is an option which is used. So it clearly indicates that actually you don't have a real-time experience. So this has become very, very mandatory in every interview, guys. Please don't neglect any kind of a command with an option, guys. Please try to keep if you're not able to practice every day, at least keep a note of write in a paper or just type in some notepad. Before you go for interview, just scroll all the commands along the option and what you pass it. Exactly how to tell the same thing in front of interview without any hesitation, because he want to see your confidence level. Once you're answering it perfectly by giving all the options in the command line and exactly explaining him, he will not ask you any question at all. He will keep quiet. You'll understand that this fellow knows actually. So you might not realize initially when you're giving interview all these things. You might think that okay, you're doing very well, but the problem is that actually you will be rejected in every interview. You think that okay, why I'm not getting response or why I'm not getting a reply from this interviews and all. This is one of the major issue, that you just give a very high level answer to them, and then they will tell you, they'll make you happy in the front in the intro also. Oh, okay, okay, fine, fine, I got you. But actually they would have rejected you because they don't want that loose statement, loose answers or high level answer. They don't need that actually. Right. So this even I have experienced. That's what based on my experience I'm saying, guys. And all these interviews are very very they will be so much relaxed and reluctant, as if like okay, I mean you're as if like okay, you're giving half answer for me, no problem. You please give me, I'll accept your answer. Like that they behave in front of you. No, it's not like that, because when they are taking interview, guys, they will make you relax fine, but they are very very professional. They want the exact answer from you. They don't want any loose statement or loose answers. So if they are funny and if they are careless, you don't be careless. You be very strict and you be very, very clear when you are answering it. One of the incidents I shared to, I think Rajiv is there in the meeting. I told to Rajiv, one of the interviewer, what happened, right? There was a lot of network fluctuation was there at his side actually. And his voice and his videos continually getting disconnected. And he switched off his video and he told Rajesh, you also switched off it. He told me like that, casually he told me. I said, no, sir, I don't want to switch off it. Because there's a interview going on, a recording is going on. Somebody, some senior or some executive or some person, HR, watches this video. How they'll accept that I also switched off the video, right? And then he said, okay, fine, Rajesh, yeah. Because he understood no, because I was very serious, right? Because I'm serious, right? While giving interview, right? So he might be relaxed, he might be reluctant. He might say that, okay, fine, you please switch off, or you don't share your screen, or he might be the, you should say, no, I will share my screen. I will run my video. No, my video should be there actually. So in that way, what happened, guys? You should be very, very serious when you're giving interview. No relaxing in the interview, no giving half answer. All those nonsense should be stopped now. You have to give a pakka, clear answer with a clear command, with a clear concept and a clear expression. Make it short while answering it. Don't give lengthy answer. Okay, that also harmful sometimes. Give a limited answer, satisfactory answer you give it, so that, and then like you should be very, very. For example, if he's asking something, okay, he paused something, you have to ask him, okay, okay. If suppose Rajiv is taking interview, I have to tell him that, okay, Rajiv, are you okay with this answer, or should I add on some more in points so that I can add on to it? So he will say, yes, you can add on it, means you can add on more things. Otherwise, he will say, no, this is okay for me. So you have to even confirm from him that what the level of answer what you're answering, is it satisfied for him, or should I answer you more? Because you're open to even discuss more on that, the same question. Like that, you should make him feel. You can even tell openly, like, even I can discuss more on this, whatever I said, I can give a better answer, I can add on more points. Like that, you have to tell it actually now. Otherwise, these interviewers will not, they'll not understand how much level of answer, how much level of knowledge you're having. So this is something like, these are the not like tactics actually. This is like something like you have to show intelligence when you are giving an interview actually. No shortcut, no off answers, nothing, no high level, nothing. Straight away, straight clear cut answer you have to give it. And very, very serious. You should be very serious, right? Guys, don't be reluctant. Earlier, I was very much reluctant. I understood my mistake that you should not be reluctant. You should not give half answers. I learned many things during this interview process actually, right? So always practice so much that you remember all this option and all the commands. Keep it everything in a white paper somewhere you should have written, or else it should be a notepad. Before you go for interview, your notepad might be some 100 pages, 200 pages. Scroll all the 200 pages, all commands, options, everything in your mind. It should be like a printed in your mind, and the same thing you have to tell it actually. Sometime he might argue it, no problem, let him argue. You tell your answer, this is what I know. You have to tell it. Don't be overconfident, that is one thing. And don't over react with his response also, because ultimately he's the one who's going to select you. So don't be over reactive also with him. Be very be very reluctant. Be calm. Answer it very well. Whichever you know answer, you answer it nicely. Whichever you doesn't know, you just say that, okay, I have to check on it. I have to look on it, like that. Okay. So with that, guys, I'm going to stop it. Thank you for all, and we'll meet tomorrow. Okay. Let me stop the
Yes,
recording.
yes, sir.
Morning 8 a.m. na